who are your potential customer, know of you, and know what you do. And I would bet that most of your answers are probably pretty small. You're not out there. And I'm not suggesting that you be one of those guys that hits the news every 2 or 3 years who takes out a billboard in Times Square saying, hire me. You guys have all heard those random stories peppered through the news every couple of years. Somebody does something really random like that. And I'm not suggesting that you go put up a glamorous website for yourself with pictures of you at play and pictures of all the stuff that you've done. But figure out how to market. Figure out how to reach those people and make them aware of what you do. Obviously, you can do the kind of stuff we do. Speaking, blogging, writing. But maybe you're not that kind of person. Maybe you're the kind of person that goes out to events and markets one-on-one. You have to figure out how to go out and get those people aware of what is your brand, who you are, and what you do.
When you start thinking about businesses marketing, right? You start thinking about, slogans, packaging, just being kind of known for something, and start thinking about all the, the different brands that we get hammered on, with the Super Bowl. I always think, this kind of sounds crazy, and I'll probably get some bad reaction, but that company GoDaddy with their bold Super Bowl ads, they're tasteless, and they're not, but in a very short period of time, that's the brand that's been associated with GoDaddy. That's the type of thing that I equate as their, trashy Super Bowl ad. That's the first thing I would think about, right? So when when you talk about branding, you have to think about how you want to be perceived. And that perception can be very easy. It could be very easy to talk about branding yourself within the context of your job, within the context of your local community and your peer groups, and in the context of the information security community at large. There's so many different groups that people can volunteer. I think about in New York, we have a very active OWASP chapter, and there's a guy that runs the OWASP community in New York, a guy named Tom Brennan. I just think of him as Mr. OWASP. Everything about OWASP, he's always involved with. And, that just kind of equates. So if I had a question about web application security, he'd probably be the first guy I'm going to call. Because if he doesn't have the answer, he probably knows somebody who's going to get me that answer, and I'm going to be able to kind of interact with him that way. So you start thinking about how you want to be known in your career and being known in your own environment. Do you want to be known as the person who comes early? Do you want to be known as the person who delivers projects on time? Do you want to be known as the person who's always laughing at meetings, or the person who just talks too much and never listens? You have to think on a general basis how you want to be perceived in your regular work environment, amongst your peers, and in the community at large.
And it doesn't matter if you choose not to decide. You've still made a choice, to paraphrase an old song lyric. You have a brand. Whether you like it or not, you have a brand. It's only the choice of, do you choose to consciously choose what your brand is and to work towards that brand, or do you choose to just let it happen? All right, next thing in managing your You Inc. is the one that nobody likes to talk about. And it's funny because, you get these career talks with people like us, and everybody talks about how to get more income. But very few people would get up here and talk about the other side of it. But if you're running a company, you have a budget. You have a P&L, profit and loss statement. You have a balance sheet. I'm a big fan of the financial guy, Dave Ramsey, and he often says, if you were hired by You Inc., to run finance, if you ran finance for you the way you currently manage money, would you fire you? And I would bet the answer for most of us in the room is yes. Now, I'm not going to stand up here and give you a whole bunch of budget advice. Go read Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman or something. But you don't just get to think about the income. You got to think about the outgo, too. That's part of the P&L for you, Inc.
Well, one of the key reasons that the outcome or how you budget and manage your life is important is because if you're under financial duress, you cannot make good decisions. All your decisions will be colored because you have to focus on money as opposed to focusing on things that might be better for you. And, Mike and I we just did that. We talked about that survey. We pulled that data from beforehand. I mean, we found some things, and this will be easy. It'll just be show of hands. We're not going to ask anybody to say anything. So we asked a couple key questions. And one of the questions we asked was, in relationship to other people in IT, do you think that have the same experience that you do, because you are a security professional, how many people believe that they're entitled to earn a bit more money? How many people think that they're entitled to earn a whole bunch more money? So it's a very small percentage right here. So in our survey, 50% of the respondents said that they felt that they were entitled to earn a bit more money. 33% of the respondents said that they were entitled to earn a lot more money. So 83% of the folks that responded to our survey thought that because they were a security professional, they deserved to earn more, just because they did security.
Unfortunately, most companies don't think that these days.
I mean, I don't know any HR functions that think that way now. They used to, but not now. How many people think they're underpaid? Show of hands. How many people think they're overpaid? Okay. A little honesty, right? So our survey said 60% of the information security professionals felt that they were underpaid. 3% felt that they were overpaid. That's about right in this room. So, how many people got a salary increase last year? How many people were happy with their salary increase last year?
Yeah, that's about right.
How many people were disappointed with their salary increase? Very good. 50% of the people in our survey were disappointed in their salary increase, and only 10% were pleasantly surprised. 5-1. So if you could, I could tell you that the things that I saw in that survey made me feel one thing, just the common thread of the data was that there's a perception problem in our market. And whether that perception problem is self-created or it's a poor job of management communication, it's one of those two things. So when you start thinking about compensation, what you really have to think about is how you mark yourself to the market. And when I say mark to market, we heard that a lot in the financial crisis. But when you start thinking about marking to market, right? How are you paid in relationship to others that have the same jobs, that have the same skills, in the same industry, in the same location? You have to find a way to get that data. Feel free to talk to your friends about some of these items. Question?
And what that comes down to is ultimately customer selection. You know, if you're thinking about it as a business, when you start writing a business plan, you start talking about who your target market is and who your ideal customer is. You know, I know for one of my businesses that my ideal customer is the person that really cares about deep technical security. If someone's just looking to check a box, I don't want them as a customer, and I will turn them down. If you're working in if you want to be paid well as a security person, you probably want to work in an organization that cares and puts a whole lot of value towards security, right? It clears it up when you think about this as a customer relationship, because ultimately some customers are willing to spend a bunch of money on something and some aren't. And if your goal is to sell your product, if you're selling a high-priced premium product, you know, you're not marketing Ferraris to a low-income neighborhood. You're marketing Ferraris to rich people. If you want to sell your product, which is you, at a very high price, you market it to people who have a lot of money to spend and who are looking to spend it on that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, when it comes down to it, too, one of the other things that, to expand upon your point, John, is that when you have, whose fault really is that information security is not valued in your organization? If that happens to be your situation, you might look at who's ever leading that organization at doing a very poor job of communicating to the people who determine the commitment, the budgets of information security by being able to demonstrate the importance, which goes back to sales. So if you think about that, right, you have to be able, in your job, you should be talking to your management about why security is important. I don't say that, hey, look, if we don't do this, we're going to be on the cover of the New York Times and the building's going to, the hackers are going to come in and we're going to lose our brand and all that other stuff. But you might be able to talk about that significantly and you might get more commitment. But, when you start thinking about marketing your skills, right, you have to start thinking about, like, if I become better quicker, can I get more money? How will getting better help accelerate my earnings?
In business, we call it a forecast, right?
And the other thing is this: if I don't get better, are my skills worth less? Think about, like, when people were, when I started recruiting in the mid-'90s, if I found somebody who had firewall experience, like checkpoint firewall experience, that was real hot. People would pay tons of money for that. Now, having firewall experience is like it's expected that if you're a network engineer that you'll know how to deal with firewalls. It's a line item on the job. It's not the job itself. So if you think about that, think about the skills that you're known for today, what the market value of those skills are now, and what the market value of those skills might be in 3 years. Is there going to be more need for those skills, or are there going to be less need for your skills?
And ultimately, you get to make choices about how your customers are going to pay you. Part of understanding your own financial situation is understanding how much compensation I need. Do I want to be a high-priced product right now, or will I take a little less while I develop that version 2.0? It's funny. We're a very education-driven industry, as we saw earlier. The 47% want more training and only 49% want to keep their job. Most people in our industry will take less to develop their product more because it's a very product development oriented industry. I always use accounting as my example. The rules of accounting haven't changed much in the last 100 years. The rules of information security, if you still knew only what you knew in 2005, you would be completely useless to your employer. You wouldn't know anything about wireless networks. You wouldn't think about mobile devices. You wouldn't know about data leak prevention. I could probably name.
You probably
10
know
other
a lot about PKI.
Yeah, you know a lot about PKI. But think about it. Our industry changes so rapidly. We're actually we're a funny industry because if you think about where the security holes are, they're always in the new product. Not a whole lot of security holes in the